You probably don't need to be from Kerry to be fairly furious with what you've seen today because David Clifford completely manhandled in that game. And it's kind of a wonder he hasn't been sent off before this. So for those who missed it, Tyrone just about edged the game against Kerry there in the league. But David Clifford, he put on a yellow card and he ends up getting a second yellow card. And for anyone who saw the footage, now it jumps in mid flow and he's been tackled by a Tyrone defender and he ends up on the ground. He completely just puts his hands up and allows whatever's happening to happen to him. Ends up getting a second yellow card. Is furious, roars at the umpire, both umpires, the referee, and he's furious going off, and rightly so. Because if you look at the few weeks that we've had in the league now, he's completely manhandled against Dublin, especially at the end of the game when his jersey gets ripped. And here he is again getting manhandled against Tyrone. And I'm going to put both of the images up on screen there, and you can see. I mean, if that's what arguably the best player of this generation and the generation coming is going to have to put up with. What is the future going to look like for him? How many times is he going to end up getting thumped? How many times is he going to end up getting a red card because he's been pushed all the way to the edge? Um, I don't think that's the sort of future in football that people want. Just to analyse the game, I mean, never mind the fact that he was furious with that, but Clifford was. But it also, of course, killed Kerry's chances of getting back into the game because their most accurate shooter, a guy who had shot the lights out for most of the game, he was now taken out of the game. So, I mean, obviously that's hugely beneficial for Tyrone from that point of view. I'm not saying they went out to do it, but we all know the consequences of massive players. And like some of Clifford's scores, a couple of the marks, especially that one into the wind in the second half, just knocked it over as if it didn't matter at all. And it was a crazy wind, but you'd even wonder. They showed a clip of Maurice Fitzgerald on the sideline, another wonderful talent back 20 years ago, and the years either side of that. But he probably had to put up with similar treatment as Clifford did. So from his point of view, um, that's a very bitter pill to swallow. Um, for Clifford, like some of his scores, the fact that they were so fuss free, like he gets the ball, turns his man. There was one early in the second half where Ronan McNamee did a half jersey pull, decided to let him go because he probably knew that it was going to be a point anyway. Um, yeah, another point that would have to be made is not only was Niall Morgan very good on the frees, and Kerry kept Tyrone in the game in the first half, went in at half time 8 points to 4 ahead, knowing they'd have to play into that win in the second half, but kept giving stupid frees away. I remember Sludden at one stage, towards the latter end of the first half, being pulled back by one of the Kerry midfielders. He was going absolutely nowhere, and Niall Morgan knocked it over. Niall Morgan was able to remind the crowd too by giving the old fist pumper and old finger a wag when he scored. But Darren McCurry on the freeze was absolutely brilliant. He wasn't on the panel last year, and some people would wonder, with a small diminutive, guy like him, who's obviously clearly very skillful, is he going to get it done? But the fact that he scored some beautiful scores on a day like that, that's definitely a very positive sign. Um, Tyrone were conceding stupid frees themselves late on, especially when it went 13v13. But of course, you're probably tired, and silly tackles are going to happen when you're struggling to get oxygen to the brain. But they did do one nice cynical foul, we'll say, on Paul Ganey in the 73rd minute, and of course that was the right decision at that time. The next point I'd make then was, of course, Colin McShane coming back in for his return to the Tyrone panel. There's a good interview on TG Carr with Mickey Hart beforehand. He was asked about had he kicked much ball lately, and he said not many round balls, and of course a reference to the trials with the AFL and the Adelaide Crows. But he came in, and I think at that stage Tyrone, 41 minutes gone, and they had brought it back to, it was possibly 6-8 or 7-8 at that stage. It was a case, don't panic, just you've got the wind, decent, careful shot selection. At the same time, two of their first three scores at the start of the second half were from shots from a fair distance out. What else happened? It was level after 44 minutes, and from that point on, actually, it was an interesting point made by Tomas O'Shea. He tweeted during the game saying that can the Kerry defenders not get out in front of their man and just try and contest the ball? And that's a fair point, because even if you look to the article that Aidan O'Rourke had last year, when he said that Kerry wasted the league by not going to man, like developing defenders who can go man to man, and that's definitely been a point made a lot. Um, so yeah, that would be the main points from the game, and but the fact that Clifford is getting that attention, not ideal, and it's something we've obviously seen for generations of the main men getting marked out. But a disgrace to see him getting red carded when, by all accounts of any of the video footage I've seen so far, he was definitely on the wrong end of it. And yeah, I mean, it's very hard to know what to do in the middle of an in-game scenario. The rest are only going to see what they see, and a lot of the time, if two lads are doing argy bargy, it's going to be a yellow card either way. But obviously, that's not good enough.